basically said, will you make EFCC fully independent and mandate them to go after everyone, even your friends? How would you reform the criminal justice system and judiciary, given the lack of confidence Nigerians have in it to deliver justice against public officials and politicians who are corrupt? This is from Mr. Ayo Ali.
My quarrel with our judicial system is that there is too much delay. If we can shorten the delay so that justice is seen to be meted out immediately, the better for us.
What, in your view, is responsible for that delay, and how will you tackle it?
Is looking at the legislature and also the procedures being adopted by the judiciary. We have to look at it. We have to sit down, with the National Assembly and with the judiciary itself and say, look, I mean, you know that the cases we initiated in our administration are still in court. Do you know that?
Yes.
Now, where is the justice there? And we set up the EFCC. I, in particular, brought the piece of draft legislation from Brazil. And it was based on that draft that EFCC legislation was crafted. When it was eventually passed by the National Assembly, EFCC did not even have the money in the budget to start operation. I borrowed them 300 million naira from the privatization process and said, you better get to work. The following year, when there was budgetary allocations, they repaid the money. So I believe the period that it takes, most of the convictions we are hearing today were cases that we started in our administration.
We are going to have to take a quick break. Please don't go away.
No matter where you come from, no matter
in this country, and of course the fact that for many years now there have been allegations that the people who are supposed to administer justice are corrupt and selling justice to the highest bidder. So what sort of reform are we looking at if you become president of the judiciary, but also of the agencies charged with investigating corrupt crimes?
Well, I thank you very much again. I have already indicated to you the kind of reform I want to, undertake. That reform has to, number one, shorten the period of investigation by investigative agencies.
But how will you do this?
Well,
it's the how that I'm after.
You have to legislate. This is a country that is governed by rule of law. So you can only rule of law, to approach issues. And therefore, you have to legislate. In other words, investigation agencies must have a time limit.
Okay.
Within which to investigate. There must be a time limit within which to prosecute. And there must be a time limit by the judiciary to dispense justice.
Now, generally, financial crimes tend to be complex and complicated. How practical is it for you to say to a man who is investigating someone who's maybe taking money out of state coffers or who's been, beneficiary of proceeds of crime, where maybe the chain is abroad in different countries, that they must do their work within a short period of time? Won't you be denying justice by doing that? No.
Why is it that other countries are doing it within a shorter period of justice? Are they denying justice to their citizens?
But there are no, what I'm trying to get at is that, so in other countries it could take this much or it could take this much. We've seen them investigate crimes that have taken many, many years.
Yes.
And eventually bring people to book. In other words, there are no statute of limitations for certain types of crimes. What you seem to be suggesting is that you want to put some sort of statute of limitation.
Not necessarily, because I don't like even statute of limitations. Because sometimes you let criminals go. Why? Why, in this era of technology, what financial investigations will not be able to do within a specified, reasonable period of time? I believe it is doable. Honestly.
If you become president today, what about existing cases? What are you going to do about them?
I believe there will be need for dialogue between the various branches of government. Look, we are at a very, very crisis point in this country on the issue of fight against corruption. We can't afford delays. Before we review our procedures and our laws, I think there is need we do something immediately. And I believe everybody will understand if you really intend to fight corruption.
Would you consider an amnesty where you say to people who've been involved in corrupt practices that bring back money and we draw a line, and then going forward, we begin to implement ABC?
Why not? I give you an example of Turkey. Turkey gave an amnesty, and all the money abroad came back to Turkey, and the government said, when you bring the money, there is even no taxation. We want you to invest in manufacturing, we want you to invest in technology, we want you to invest in real estate. And look at Turkey today. It's like any other European country in terms of its development. And then they drew a line. Why not? We could consider it.
No, but have you considered it?
Personally, yes. Personally, I have considered it.
Okay.
Why not?
You will realize that for a few Nigerians, this will be problematic.
Yes, it will
because
be.
It sounds like
it will be, but
a way of trying to allow those who've stolen money to get away with it.
What have they been able to achieve? Let me tell you what we achieved when we came into the office to fight corruption. There was a recovery panel set up by President Obasanjo under my chairmanship, myself, the Attorney General, and the National Security Advisor. And by calling various people who have been alleged to have stolen money, we recovered over $4 billion which we paid back into the treasury. If you were to go and prosecute these people, up till now, you will still be prosecuting them, and that money would have been denied you. So, I mean, there are a number of options.
The moral issue with that, though, is that in many ways people say there are two problems. First is that corruption then looks as if it pays. And so therefore, people are not, there's no deterrent for people because they feel that if they steal, there's always going to be an opportunity for them to be able to make a deal and come back because they're bringing money back. And then you're sort of sending the wrong signals as well to people who are coming up, because this is, we now have a culture and people are trying to change that culture.
It all depends on what you want to achieve, whether it is moral rectitude you want to achieve or you want to see a fast development of your country from proceeds of corruption and so on and so forth. It all depends on what you want to achieve.
I'm going to take a few questions from the audience. The lady in pink.